I want to show you something. This year, Marilyn Monroe's 100th birthday year, an auction house sold one of her medical x-rays. A chest x-ray, of course, taken in 1954 when she was admitted to hospital for endometriosis, a painful, private gynecological condition, filed under the name DiMaggio, a document from one of the most vulnerable and personal moments of her life. I've been sitting with that for a while now, since I found out, trying to find the right words to describe how it makes me feel. And a lot of different words come in and out. But the one I keep coming back to is enough. Because this is her 100th birthday. 100 years since Norma Jeane Mortenson was born in Los Angeles on June 1st, 1926, and grew up to become one of the most photographed women in history. And we are still treating her like something to be owned, bought and sold, picked apart. She's been dead for over 60 years and is still not being left alone. This video is about how that happened and who let it happen and why on her 100th birthday, I think we owe her something more. What the studios did. Let's start right at the beginning because the commodification of Marilyn didn't start after she died. It started the moment the Hollywood studios decided what she was worth. Fox Studios, her studio that signed her, saw a young woman with extraordinary quality on screen and they made a calculation. She was most valuable as a type. The blonde, the bombshell, the dumb girl, the girl who was beautiful and unthreatening and could be dropped into almost any film and would be guaranteed an audience. So that's what they built. That's the mold they made and they kept pressing her into regardless of what she actually wanted or how she grew or actually what she was capable of. So she pushed back constantly. She wanted dramatic roles. She wanted to be taken seriously. She left Hollywood and studied at the Actors Studio in New York because she was determined to grow as an artist in ways that the studio system had no interest in supporting because that wasn't going to make the money. They couldn't care less. So what did Fox do? They suspended her. They publicly dismissed her. They did everything in their power to make sure that the story about Marilyn remained the story that they had written, because the story that they had written was making them an enormous amount of money. They didn't see a person, they saw a product to be sold. And when a product starts to have opinions about how it's used, that's a problem to be managed, not a human to be listened to. The cruelty of that is almost elegant in its efficiency. They didn't need to be openly malicious. They just had to keep giving her the same roles, keep dismissing her attempts to evolve, keep making sure the gap between the myth and the woman stayed wide enough that nobody had to take the woman seriously. And it worked, right up until it didn't. And if you are been on my channel for a while now and you watch my Elvis videos, I think you're probably like me, you're seeing a very, very similar line happening here of someone that's desperate to be taken seriously, desperate to better themselves and is stuck in a cage that somebody else has put them in. I think it's so sad. What the press did. If the studios built the myth, the press maintained it. And let's be honest about what that actually looks like, because we talk about the press of that era with a kind of nostalgic remove, the old Hollywood gossip columns, the glamorous premieres, the breathless coverage. It almost is romantic from a distance. But it wasn't romantic, it was a machine that consumed people. Marilyn's entire life was considered public property. Her relationships, her miscarriages, her mental health, her body, her medical history, every breakdown, every hospitalization, every divorce, every difficult production. It was all reported on maliciously and dressed up as journalism. And the framing was always the same. She was either the ditzy blonde who couldn't remember her lines, or she was a tragic mess who couldn't keep it together. There was no version of Marilyn in the press that was simply a talented and complicated woman having a difficult time. And even in death, the press didn't leave her alone. The headlines the morning after she died were not about who she was or what she did or what she contributed to the world and to Hollywood. It was about how she was found and what she wasn't wearing. She deserved so much more than that, and the most devastating part is that the press knew that she was struggling. There were journalists who watched her deteriorate in real time and wrote about it as entertainment, who treated her pain as content, who understood on some level that the more chaotic her life became, the more their readers wanted to know about it. Nobody stopped. Nobody told them enough. What the people around her did. This one's more complicated because not everyone around Marilyn was malicious. Some of them genuinely cared about her and some of them deeply loved her. But love and exploitation aren't always opposites. Sometimes they live in the same relationship. The people closest to her, the ones that should have protected her most, often had their own needs tangled up in who she was and what she represented. There were those who positioned themselves as teachers, guardians, protectors, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, whose own careers and reputations were built in part because of their proximity to Marilyn Monroe. And Marilyn had a habit of trusting people who weren't worthy of it, of giving people the benefit of the doubt long past the time where she should have given them that benefit. She was, by many accounts, extraordinarily generous with her time, her money, and her warmth. And there were people around her that understood that and used it. What she needed and really got was someone who saw her clearly, not the symbol, not the product, not the fantasy, not the project, just her. The woman with all her contradictions and her brilliance and her struggle. That person, if she had found them, might have changed everything. What we are still doing. Here's the part that I think about the most, because everything I've described so far, the press, the studios, the people who took more than they gave, we talk about it all in past tense, like it's history, like it's something that we've moved beyond. But then an auction house sells her chest x-ray in her 100th birthday year, and I have to ask, are we beyond it really? Because what is that x-ray if not the same impulse that drove the tabloids in 1962? The same hunger to possess some piece of Marilyn, to own something intimate and private, to take ownership of her body, to have access to parts of Marilyn that she never offered publicly. She had endometriosis. She was in hospital. She was in pain, and someone kept that x-ray, and then someone sold it, and someone paid $10,000 for it, and she was a human being. I can't imagine, me who lives with a chronic health condition, I can't imagine how violating, even if I'm dead for 6 years, it would be the violation of having my medical records sold in my 100th birthday year. It's sick. And we do it in smaller ways too, every single day. Every time we share the subway great photograph without ever watching the 7-year itch. Every time we reduce her to an aesthetic, the pink, the diamond, the blonde curls, without actually engaging with anything she ever said or did or created. Every time we treat her as a mood board rather than a person. She read extensively. She started her own production company to fight for better roles. She studied seriously at the actor studio because she wanted to grow as an artist. She gave some of the most extraordinary comedy performances of the 20th century. And most people who own a picture of Marilyn have a picture of Marilyn in their home, on their phone, on their Instagram, on their Pinterest, have never sat down and actually watched any of her films. That is still the myth winning. That is still the image swallowing her whole. And we as an audience, as public, as fans, have a choice about whether we keep letting that happen. So on her 100th birthday, this is what I want to say. To everybody, the public, everybody, stop buying her x-rays. Stop treating her body and her pain and her private medical history as collectibles. Stop sharing photographs and calling it appreciation without actually watching her. Stop letting the myth win over the person. Again, still, 60 plus years after her death. Watch her films. Listen to what she actually said in interviews. Read about what she fought for and what she built and what she was trying to become. Let her be the full human being, funny and brilliant and flawed and ambitious and lonely and real, rather than a symbol that exists for other people's purposes. She spent her entire life trying to be more than the image, and I think it's the least that we can do as an audience on her 100th birthday is finally try to see her beyond it. Marilyn, happy birthday. Thank you for everything.